Almonte's Key Food, proudly serving communities throughout Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island for over 30 years. When you shop Key Food, you'll always find fresh products, great weekly specials, and exceptional personalized service. Visit at any of their Key Food stores at 8235 153rd Avenue, Lindenwood, New York, 935 Rosedale Road, Valley Stream, New York, and 6620 Avenue U, Brooklyn, New York.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Rich Lowry's a great American, and we love the Nat Review. Rich, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good. How are you, Sydney?
I'm doing great. I'm going to the Hall of Fame, Rich. I'm like Mickey Epping Mantle.
That's so great.
I know. Who would have thunk this years and years ago? But, listen, I made a speech last night at this event. And look, I'm all about celebrating 250. I think it's marvelous. And we are far and away. It's not even close. We are far and away the greatest country in the world. I do wish our kids learn more about our history. Like Brian Kilmeade said on this show yesterday, they don't even know about the revolution. All they teach in New York City schools is slavery and civil rights. These kids have no idea what the real history of this country is. And we're a magnificent country. But we got a lot of problems right now. We got DSA candidates winning all across America. We're involved in a war no matter what President Trump says that we're not winning. In fact, it's hurting us. So you tell me, Rich, while we get set to celebrate Saturday, a worthwhile celebration, is it not dampened just a little by what's going on in this country and outside this country?
No, I don't think it should dampen the celebration of this amazing experiment. 250 years. We're a country that has a young spirit. At the same time, we have some of the oldest governing institutions in America because they're built by geniuses and work so well. And if you look back in 1976, the last big celebration, country was in a terrible place then. Jimmy Carter was president.
True.
Gas lines. Yep. Iran was about to be.
Well, but it wasn't. That wasn't until his way out in like 78, 79, right?
Yeah. I
right.
misspoke. It wasn't happening yet, but the humiliation was to come, and the 50-year war was going to begin. So no, it shouldn't dampen our celebration. But look, we should be concerned about it, no doubt. I mean, the Democrats are going into a lunatic place, and there's poisonous trends on the right as well.
There are, but a lot of those poisonous trends on the right aren't politicians. Tucker
Correct.
Carlson's not a politician, okay? So when I've been getting...
Not yet.
Not yet.
Because he wants to form a party. But look, Donald Trump has held the center on this issue, and it is holding it back on the right. So you've been right about him and how important he is to Jews. There's just no doubt about it.
President Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's gone sideways. I spend most of my time the last couple of weeks criticizing President Trump more than saying nice things about him. Now, look, don't confuse. He's still the best ever.
So-called deal.
The Iran deal it's not a deal. Let's stop saying that, okay? Right now it's an MOU. There is no deal. There's no deal. So between this Iran mess, and I don't care about the Dow Jones and the S&P, it's a mess. And the way he's been treating Israel and Bibi lately, and his continued compliments of people like Erdogan and Mamdani, even though I still love him dearly. I think he's mad at me, but I love him dearly. Lately, I'm not all that happy with President Trump. How about that?
Yeah, well, he hasn't gone, where J.D. Vance has in terms of criticizing Israel. But look, he was just desperate to...
Well, I criticize his Bibi, though. He's very, very tough on Bibi. Very tough.
Yeah, well, he'll be tough on him now and not tough on him 6 months from now. But he's not on Israel and the Jews. He's not where Tucker Carlson is, and never will be. That's just not fundamentally where he is. But look, the gas prices, he couldn't take them. He wanted to stop. He apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, I don't know whether you saw this report, yesterday or the day before, he wanted to reopen the strait, but he needed Saudi bases to do it, and the Saudis said no. In part, by the way, because the Iranians lashed out when we began to reopen the strait and hit Gulf countries, and Trump said, "Oh, this is no big deal," because he didn't want to start a big fight again. So, but that made it kind of militarily impossible to reopen it. And then what are you going to do? You're going to wait 6 months with the blockade, with gas prices maybe going above $5 a gallon. I think it was politically impossible. So I think we didn't win the war, and that's the reason why there's a terrible diplomatic deal.
Not even close to winning the war, the fact. And, yesterday was kind of a rough day, too, because here he's in a plane that was given to us by Qatar, and a lot of Americans, not Tucker Carlson, he's made a lot of money, but a lot of Americans don't like this relationship with Qatar. I mean, the fact is they were housing terrorists, still are, Hamas leaders. They live in Qatar, okay? So we're taking a plane from a country that harbors terrorists that help kill Americans and Israelis, of course, in big, big numbers. And then all this talk about the stock, Axon, or whatever that is, I don't know, and the fact that his cryptocurrency company was costing people millions and millions of dollars, but him, Eric, and Donald Jr., they made billions and billions of dollars. So that whole trip yesterday for Teddy Roosevelt to North Dakota wasn't a great look for President Trump. Well, you tell me, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it's not a great look, and this is something we're going to spend a lot of next year talking about, because I still believe Democrats are going to take the House, and this is going to be their obsession. It's going to be investigations into how Trump and everyone around him has made so much money, and a lot of it's not going to be great.
They're already all over it this morning on MS Now and CNN. That's all they're talking about. But, getting back to the Democrats, and this is why you know this, Rich, I get crazy when I hear people talk about moderate Democrats. You know that. They don't exist. I've said it a billion times. There's one, John Fetterman. That's it. And to be honest, John Fetterman should really take Manchin's advice and at this point just become a Republican. It's silly. Every Democrat, every one of them, if you want to call them moderate Democrats, progressive Democrats, eventually they cave because they want to win. And they can't win without joining the rest of these lunatics. And this DSA stuff, this woman in Colorado a couple of nights ago, Mamdani here, there's now 9 New York politicians that are part of that group. It is sweeping the country. If you're an American and you're not terrified of this, you've got your head in the sand, man. These people are bad, really bad, Rich.
No, absolutely. They hate America. They hate what's made it great, and they have all the momentum in the Democratic Party. And relatively moderate Democrats, maybe we'll put it that way, Democrats who aren't democratic socialists, they have no antibodies against this. They have no courage to fight it. So they could very well nominate a presidential candidate who is this way. If you're AOC, you're an idiot if you don't run for president now.
But in the meantime, Kamala Harris, who was their, I guess she was their nominee, there was no vote. The Democrats, they just threw her in there. She reached out to AOC, and she reached out to Mamdani and 2 or 3 of these other pro-Palestinian DSA candidates because she wants to run, and she knows she needs them. So the question becomes, does AOC now run against Schumer? He won't even run. He'll just retire. Take that, right. She'll take that Senate seat in New York. Let somebody like Harris or Buttigieg be the sacrifice, and then decide to run in 4 years. She's still very, very young.
Yeah, that is a decision. The Senate seat just seems to be hers for the taking if she wants it, but does she want to reach for the brass ring? And Harris, by the way, is just such a soulless hack. This is exactly what she did when she ran the first time around with Bernie Sanders. She thought Bernie was a hot new thing, so she was going to pick up all his ideas. That's what she's going to do with Mamdani and this crew as well.
It's just unbelievable. What makes these people think? I mean, her performance was right there with Curtis Sliwa. Not being serious. Curtis got 7% of the vote, which was the worst showing ever. Mind you, 4 years before that, he also got his ass whooped by Eric Adams. Whooped. And he's all over Dave Portnoy. Curtis should shut the hell up. Seriously. When you get 7%, you do not own the right to make fun of any other candidate. But I'm using him as an example because he lost in embarrassing fashion, right? Loser. Harris lost in embarrassing fashion. She lost every swing state. She lost every popular vote in the country. She only won in states where they had no ID. And these people keep coming back for more. Why? I guess money? Fame? What is it?
I think, when you lose, usually the reaction of your party is like, thank you very much, we don't want to see or hear from you again. But that hasn't been the reaction with her, and I think it's because they blame Biden. And he does bear a lot of the blame. He had a president who is near senile, decided to run again, screwed up the whole thing, was unpopular. So she's gotten a pass. Now, I think she was a terrible candidate, and if she had a better candidate, she might have won. She lost every swing state. She lost them pretty narrowly. It was still a pretty close election. So if they had someone better, they might have pulled it out. But she's terrible. But I think she's a legit contender. She has a lot of black support. That's important. That the black voters, by and large, in the Democratic presidential primaries, they aren't DSA types. They're relatively moderate. So I hate to say it, she has a chance. It's scary for the country if she would ever be president of the United States, but I think she has a chance to be their nominee again.
And you'll hear Republicans say, oh, that would be great news. And I would just say, be careful what you wish for. Mm-hmm. I used this last night. When the Celtics became a bad basketball team, I forget who the coach was, maybe Patino, I don't even know. And he said, Lowry Bird is not walking through that door anytime soon. And President Trump, for all my criticism the last couple of weeks, I still think he's the best, and I love him. And I'm going to cry like a baby when he's done. So President Trump is not walking through those doors anytime soon. And I have to tell you, it's anecdotal. It's just me, Sid Rosenberg. But I talked to a lot of people the last 2 weeks between Israel and 7,000 miles away here in New York. Nobody that I speak to, nobody would rather have J.D. Vance as our nominee than Marco Rubio. Not one person.
Yeah, everyone I've talked to, I haven't met a Republican who doesn't like Marco Rubio. I have met some that don't like J.D. Vance, just anecdotally. But I don't think Marco's running.
Me either.
I think J.D. will be the nominee. I think there'll be
But let me stop you for a second. No, I agree with you, and I don't think Marco is running because, and maybe I'm wrong, you know more about this than I do, because I think that's what President Trump wants. Is that not right?
I don't know. It's a little hard to read. I think he in the abstract, he'd kind of like both of them to run so they can do the thing for a year. Who do you guys want me to support? And so have both of them on a string and have the competition. But Marco, he cut for all our criticisms of Trump and what he's done in Iran lately. The Lebanon deal is fantastic. Who did that? Marco Rubio. That's a real consequential thing. He's in a really important big job that he loves and he's doing well at. So why would he? 7 months from now, or whatever it is, get in a rented car and drive around Iowa.
I get it. Look, and look, I love Marco. I love him to pieces, and I want him to be the guy. But that Lebanon deal, really, Israel just struck Lebanon again the last couple of days. You know that, right? Last night, we hit him again. You know that, right? I say we, Israel, but we hit him again. You know that, right?
Yeah, but this is so much better than what's in the MOE.
Oh, I understand, but
and it's an alliance with the Lebanese government against Hezbollah.
I know.
It's not a magic wand, but it's a step forward. But look, I think the only thing that's going to stop JD likely is if for some reason Trump decides he doesn't like him, or he wants to screw him, or he wants to just pull the rug out from under him. That's plausible. Otherwise, I think he's very likely to be the nominee. And the problem is, can he reignite the Trump coalition the way Trump does? No one can do that. Where is he going to add to the coalition? It's hard to see where it is. And Trump's probably not going to be very popular. Maybe there's an economic boom and things have changed, but probably 42-ish approval. So it's going to be really tough, and it would depend on the Democrats nominating someone who's unacceptable, which they very well could do.
Final 90 seconds, Rich Lowry. How do you think this Iran thing ends, and what has to happen?
I'm not sure. I think it just kind of bumps along. I don't think Trump's going to wage a major war against them again. I think they're going to keep yanking our chain in the Strait of Hormuz. And they love renegotiating things they've supposedly agreed to. So if they can keep us just negotiating with them about what actually is happening in the Strait, you don't even get to the nuclear stuff. And they figure next year, as we were alluding to earlier, Trump's going to be really distracted and taken down a notch because the midterms are going to be terrible, and then they're home free. Now, look, a lot of their stuff is still wrecked. It's going to take a lot of time to rebuild, but they will have survived.
He's got to stop at these ridiculous meetings, too. Stop Doha yesterday, and, I don't know Steve Witkoff. I know his kid, Alex. He's a nice kid. He's in the Holocaust Memorial Council with me. Trump appointed both of us. But everybody that I know that knows Steve Witkoff likes him, but he has no right doing these types of things. He's a real estate guy sitting in a room with a bunch of people that want to kill us. He has no right. And the truth is that him and Kushner have done nothing. Nothing. And when I hear there's a meeting coming up, I got to be honest, Rich, I start to laugh. What a waste of time. Enough with the stupid meetings. They are not going to work. And I'll say to you what I said to a very large Fox News audience, which I shocked Rachel Campos, Duffy, Charlie Hurt, I know you saw this, and Griff Jenkins on Sunday morning. Iran will never do a deal, ever. And if they do a deal, much like they did with Obama and Kerry, they will never comply. Never, ever, ever. So let's stop with the meetings. Let's stop trying to pull the wool over the Americans' eyes. Let's be honest about this and either send everybody home and call it a day and work on the Dow Jones and jobs, or bomb the shizzle out of them. That's it. Am I wrong, Rich? That's it.
I can't say you're wrong.
But you didn't say I was right.
No, I think you're right. The problem is he's not going to bomb the shizzle out of him.
Why not? Why not?
Well, it was an unpopular war, right? So he doesn't want to start it again. He's made a big deal about it being over, so it's even harder now.
But it's not over. You got to be an idiot to think it's over. How do you start something and not finish?
Because we couldn't reopen the Strait of Hormuz, so he was just stuck. We're back to the word you used over and over again. He was stuck. So he had to find a way out, and he found an inadequate way out. And I just don't see what the realistic alternative is.
What do you think comes first? I'll let you go here. The Iran war ends, or the Yankees win a baseball game?
Welcome to being a Yankee fan, Sid. This is part of the team's identity. The last 4 or 5 years, the swoon in June or July. We'll eventually win a game again. But there is a scenario where this team is just not as good as it seemed it was at the beginning of the year. If Judge doesn't come back, it's a catastrophe. And the whole thing's over. And I love Ben Rice. But he's regressing towards the mean. Maybe Paul Goldschmidt again. Is kind of giving out as the months add up in the calendar. Austin Wells I love, but apparently is not a major league hitter, so it's bad. I mean, this last 7 games we were averaging two runs a game and 4 hits. And what was it yesterday?
No, it's terrible.
2 runs. I think we got 7 hits.
Yeah, and on top of that, what is going on with Cam? He can't pitch the last couple of games.
Yeah, well, when that happens, you kind of worry. Is he really hurt?
Yeah.
Is there something going on there, or is he also regressing towards the mean? So we'll see. It's a long season. We can take at least some enjoyment if you're a Mets hater, which you are now, Sid, in the Juan Soto playing that ball into a Little League home run.
Please.
That made my whole week.
Nah, he's a dick. We put that in the Not Review. Sid Rosenberg just called Juan Soto a dick. We'll do this lunch after July 4th, okay, buddy? I love you. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the 4th.
You too. There he is, the great editor from the National Review, the great Rich Lowry.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?